This is Dennis Sullivan, and we're going to talk about environmental scanning, how to scan the marketing environment for any business or service. Now, when we're talking about environmental scanning, the important thing to keep in mind here is we're not talking about climate change, we're not talking about clean air, clean water. Instead, we are talking about forces that may impact an organization or a company. It's like the weather. Companies, organizations have no control over the weather, but they must pay attention to it because it can have an impact on the organization. And those impacts can be positive or negative. There are 5 environmental forces that we want to look at. There are social changes, economic, technological, competitive, or regulatory. These are trends that are occurring over time. They can benefit an organization or they could be a threat to an organization. The important thing is that these trends, this information, this analysis must be backed by evidence-based research with data to support it. It should not include your opinion or recommendations in this analysis. Instead, it's an objective analysis supported by facts. Let's take an example with Amazon, and specifically we want to look at the online retailing business of Amazon. We can look at the social trends. So for example, we can see that online consumer spending continues to grow as e-commerce sales increased 15.5% through the first 3 quarters of 2018. So we have some data here showing the trend over a specific period of time, and we have a legitimate source here according to the U.S. Commerce Department. It's important that you have sources that are not biased but are objective too when analyzing these trends. Another example, consumers are more comfortable purchasing online. This is according to a March 2018 survey of consumers by Internet Retail and BizRate Insights. 76% of shoppers plan to purchase more than a quarter of their holiday gifts online, and that's an increase from 73% during the same period the year before. Again, we have a trend here showing a change over time. Another example, online retail sales grew 17.4% during the 2018 holiday season. And now look at this data here. We're seeing that not only are retail sales growing online, but they also grew overall 5.6% during the same time period. But obviously much more significant impact in terms of online sales growing during that same time period. We can also look at economic trends. So now we're looking at micro, macro economics, consumer confidence, wages, unemployment, GDP all fall into this area. So for example, consumer confidence declined in January for the 2nd straight month. However, those conditions still appear to be favorable according to the January 2019 Conference Board Consumer Confidence Survey. So we want to put this data into context as well, not just reporting the numbers, but what it means, and more specifically, how this is relevant to the organization or company that you're analyzing. Here's another example. Consumer spending continues to remain strong as it increased 3.5% in the 3rd quarter of 2018, according to the Bureau of Economic Analysis. Again, we have data, facts supporting it from a legitimate source. Another example, U.S. unemployment is the lowest in 2 decades. Yet, today's real average wage has the same purchasing power it did 40 years ago. Your analysis should not just be favorable to an organization, it should also cite some unfavorable conditions in order for it to be objective. Let's look next at technological trends. Here we see mobile phones make comparison shopping easier. 84% of shoppers in physical stores use their smartphones to get information about products and comparison shop, according to Think with Google. Obviously, this is relevant to companies like Amazon, online retailers, when consumers are shopping. Another example, millennials. More than half of them have downloaded a mobile shopping app, according to a Stanford survey. And then looking a little bit differently here into the operations of the company, we see technology impacting it as well. For example, the integration of robotics in warehouses. Robots can pick up to 400 to 1,000 orders per hour, reducing human workforce by 70% and operational costs by 20%, according to the Logistics Bureau. So here we have some trends that are occurring in terms of robotics, but also making it relevant to the organization and what kind of impact that may have. Let's look next at competitive trends. Walmart continues to expand its online shopping and delivery model since 9 out of 10 Americans live within 10 miles of a Walmart store. This is according to Forbes. Internet sales continue to increase, but more Americans buy from brick and mortar stores. Let's put all this data into context. E-commerce is still just 10% of the overall $5 trillion retail spend in the U.S., according to the U.S. Census Bureau. And then also Google and Microsoft, they're investing more in cloud computing services that could threaten Amazon's market share, according to RBC Capital. Next, we want to look at regulatory trends. These tend to be a little more difficult and more research is often required here. In this case with Amazon, government agencies in Europe and the US are becoming increasingly concerned about antitrust situations as some of the large tech companies like Amazon, Google, Facebook are acting like monopolies, according to reports from Bloomberg. Just recently, more news coming out about Amazon paid $0 in federal income taxes for the second straight year, even though they earned $11.2 billion in profits in 2018. Notice we're not getting into recommendations here or opinions. We are simply talking about the analysis. And then in the marketing plan, this is where we will then bring in recommendations based on this type of research. Here's another example. Amazon platform continues to expand and becomes more influential. There's potential here for more regulatory oversight, according to some of the expert analysts like Mark Mahaney of RBC Capital. So in summary here, with an environmental scan, we're looking at 5 forces. Again, it's like the weather. We have no control over these forces. However, it's something that companies, organizations need to pay attention to. And looking at those 5 forces, we can see the trends that may impact the organization, either positive or negative. We don't want to focus on just one or the other. This needs to be objective with evidence-based research supported by data. Again, your opinion should not be included here. This is not the place for recommendations. It's simply an analysis. Using this research then you can make recommendations later as part of your strategic plan, your marketing plan, your business plan. And it all should be supported by objective analysis with facts. I hope that's helpful, and I look forward to talking to you again soon.